Okay, next on the agenda is planning board decision. The applicant is Borrego Solar, definitive plan application to create a right-of-way on Town of Falmouth property that will provide access to the Town of Falmouth property and Lawrence Lynch's abutting property located at 0 Locust Field Road, map number 2302010001, Holmes and McGrath. And we do have a decision here. And before I read the decision, I will note that Jim and I both had absolute horrendous time. We could not read all the fine print on it. So it's given us a great deal of difficulty. But does anybody else have that same problem as we do? Oh, okay.
Pat,
Yes.
mine was the solar project out at the,
Oh, I'm sorry. I messed up on that. Yes, this is the draft motion for Borrego Solar.
one I've seen that we got to see these plans before we were locked in.
Yep. So there's a motion before us. Would somebody read that, please? Well, if I don't get any takers, I'm going to have to read it myself.
So can you see that motion on the screen?
I can see it, yes.
I'll read it, Pat, if you want.
Fine. It's got to be read because we've got listeners. And yes, they can see.
This is the motion that the planning board vote to approve the application of Borrego Solar Systems, Inc. under Article 4 Definitive Plans, Chapter 305 Subdivision Regulations of the Town of Falmouth for a plan entitled Subdivision of Plan of Land Prepared for Town of Falmouth in Hatchville, Massachusetts, prepared by Holmes and McGrath Incorporated, dated April 24th, 2020, with revision dated May 18th, 2020, a scale of 1 inch to 50 feet, together with a roadway plan and profiles entitled Plan and Profile Prepared for the Town of Falmouth and Hatchville, Mass. Also prepared by Holmes and McGrath, dated April 24th, 2020, scale of 1 inch to 40 feet, as well as construction details prepared for Town of Falmouth and Hatchville, Falmouth, Mass, prepared by Holmes and McGrath, dated April 24th, 2020, along with drainage calculations, erosion control plan, and a letter of waiver request with the following findings and conditions. Here are the findings. The applicant is applying to the planning board for a definitive subdivision in accordance with Article 4, Section 30511 definitive plan. This easement was granted at a town meeting, and the applicant is continuing the process to create the right-of-way that was approved to allow the applicant to use the easement on town land. The applicant is seeking to create a one-lot subdivision. The total area is to be subdivided.
Charlotte, that's the older one. Tom sent through a new one.
I'm sorry.
I can pick up the reading of that if that was fine with the board.
No, but what are we looking on the screen? The old or the new?
So the latest is what's on the screen. So picking up at that last sentence, town meeting authorized the select board to grant an easement and right-of-way to Lawrence Lynch Realty Corp. Over the subject land of the town of Falmouth. The purpose of this subdivision application and process is to define that easement and right-of-way on a recorded plan. In furtherance of that process and pursuant to a site plan decision dated June 20th, 2019, proposed subdivision plan will create a 2-lot subdivision. The applicant, at the town's request, is creating the subdivision plan that provides access to the abutting Lawrence Lynch Realty Corporation and improves access to the town's parcel. The existing 2 lots, Lot 1, 2.63 plus or minus acres, and Lot 2, 3.55 plus or minus acres, previously were combined by the Falmouth assessor for assessing purposes. The lots will be accessed off the new subdivision road, right-of-way off of Locust Field Road through an existing roadway. The applicant will be responsible for constructing, per the attached plan, approximately 200 plus feet of the roadway to a subdivision standard within the 44-foot right-of-way with 22-foot wide pavement from the edge of Locust Field Road. The remainder of the access easement right-of-way as it leaves the town's property is proposed to be gravel that will be blended with the pavement. The full length of the 44-foot right-of-way on the town property is 977.49 plus or minus feet. Requested waivers. Section 30524 Streets AG. The intersection of the street lines of streets with another street shall occur not less than 300 feet apart. The required distance of 300 feet is the actual, and the actual distance is plus 100 feet. Section 30524B5, street lines at intersections shall be rounded with a radius of not less than 25 feet in residential subdivisions and not less than 35 feet in industrial and commercial subdivisions. Section 305-24 Street B8. If a street layout at the entrance of a subdivision abuts property not owned by the subdivider, the width of the layout shall be 60 feet for the first 200 feet from the intersecting road. The entrance road shall be located within the layout so that the extra 16 feet will be used to provide additional buffering from the road for the abutting property owner. Section 30512E9, location of all permanent bounds properly identified as whether existing or proposed. Section 30511C3, 2 copies of the traverse tables for the perimeter survey. Section 30535F, street and roadway construction shoulders. Section 30535, loaming and seeding. Section 305-36, water main construction. Section 305-36, shoulder width. Section 305-36, underground utilities. Section 305-37, sidewalk construction. Section 305-43, streetlights. Section 305-24D2, dead-end streets. The conditions. 1, the plan shall be constructed as approved. Any changes will be reviewed by the planning board to determine if a modification of this decision is necessary. Pursuant to 240-183B of the zoning bylaw, no permit for occupancy of new construction shall be issued until the planning board is satisfied that the conditions of this approval have been met. Condition 2, the applicant must meet the soil erosion and sediment control standards and submit an erosion and sediment control plan as described in this document to Falmouth Engineering for review and approval prior to the start of construction. 3, the applicant will obtain an approved street opening permit from engineering prior to the start of any construction. And 4, highlighted in red for a particular reason, the planning board will designate an outside consultant for the construction inspections or bond or covenant releases that are allowed under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53G. If I may, Madam Chair.
Yes.
Section 4 is highlighted in red because this is a request that the engineering division has made to us. And as you know, the planning board is yet to adopt the provisions of Chapter 43, Section 53G for outside consultants. And I'd be happy to share any of the plans with any of the board members as they would like. I'm going to stop sharing so you can see everybody in the room, ma'am.
Okay, the motion has been made. Is there a second to the motion? And then we can move to discussion.
Second.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Jim?
I have 2. First, going back to earlier in the text, it said that the assessing department has merged the lots. Does that mean we're recognizing them as the ability to do an A&R and merge lots, or is that still our job and in fact didn't merge these lots?
No, I had this conversation with Tricia Vivoli this afternoon. The lots exist on their records, but in the GIS they're shown as one lots. So those lots are merged essentially for the purposes of assessing,
but not for planning.
No, they're still on record in the registry of deeds as those 2 individual lots. And that is why you see those 2 lots that are on the plan.
Oh, okay, I'm fine. I just wasn't sure why we were saying they merged the lots because I thought that was our job, but I understand that's That's fine. That's for records purpose only. My next one is in the last clause. If we approve this, are we now adopting this policy that we voted against before, because now we're bringing it incrementally, one step at a time?
No, sir. We haven't actually voted on it, but no, we have not. We haven't voted it down, but we haven't voted it up. The last time we had
did vote it down. The last time, I remember, it was brought up in whole.
Yeah, the last time it was brought up, the board wasn't in favor of it. But this is not a backdoor approval of anything. It's a condition in the subdivision. Nothing's been approved that changes the board's policy.
Tom, would it be fair to say that engineering requested this because it is a large plan that would be very time consuming for them to do all the inspections?
Well, engineering has requested it because we've always worked towards that. Engineering currently has fewer employees than they used to have. They don't have a deputy DPW director since Peter McConerty has been elevated. Their water superintendent has retired, and they're still working on hiring somebody for that position. They are basically shorthanded. They don't have the staff to do that, and they would prefer that all these things would be reviewed outside. So they've asked as in their regular comments for that condition to be asserted into the decision. And as you saw from some of the other things that we've seen in other decisions where engineering says, can we get a subdivision plan? Can we get an erosion control plan? We've incorporated those, but it's perfect within the planning board's role to say, we don't want that in there and we'll strike it.
John, you had a comment.
Yes, I do have a comment. I'm not in support of number 4. I don't understand. This is a short road on town-owned property, and the town of Falmouth Engineering Department doesn't want to do the inspections. I won't support that.
Yeah. Any other comments? Paul?
I remember very vividly that we talked a bit about this at length, and it was voted down. However, all the other departments have voted in favor of this. My only concern is I'm not sure we can put a condition on this if we have not put the ability to do this. It's not clear who would pay for it and what would happen with it. And I don't think it can be in the condition, although I think we ought to, sometime in the future, reconsider this whole option, because all the other town departments are doing it.
Definitely not a deal breaker having it in there. If we want it out, it comes out. It's easy.
Okay, but we'll have to move that it be removed as an amendment to the motion. Jim?
I move it be removed.
As an amendment to the motion.
Yeah.
Okay, and
Second.
Charlotte, you made the motion. Do you accept that?
I do.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second, and to remove number 4 from the motion. Is there any further discussion of that? All in favor of taking it out of the motion, please show your hand. Okay, so there are 4 out of the 6 of us present who want it removed from the motion.
I do too.
Oh, and Paul, so 5 out of 6 want it removed from the motion. Now we go back to the main motion. It has been moved and seconded. And remember, number 4 has been removed. John.
I just have one other question. In the readings, it talked about the traverse points, and was that the items that Mike McGrath did not want to have included?
It was.
It's proprietary to his firm.
Yes, it was, John.
I don't understand why we would want to put that in there if it is proprietary to his firm. He seemed like in all of his career, this has never been included in the decision that for a road that he's been involved with. I don't know what they are. I don't know what they are, but I don't see why we should have to include that in there. I don't know what the purpose of it is. Maybe Tom can enlighten us.
Yeah, it's in our subdivision regulations, and this is a requested waiver. So that has been in our subdivision regulations, section 30511C3. And this is a waiver. This isn't a condition. That copies of the traverse tables is a requested waiver, not a condition.
So they're out, not in.
Correct.
Right.
Everything that is required in our subdivision regulations is required from somebody who's building it, unless they ask for a waiver on it. So
Okay,
anything.
And I misunderstood. I'm sorry, I misunderstood.
That's fine.
Okay.
Just want to make it clear.
Okay, so are there any other comments or are you ready to vote on the motion? Any other comments? Okay, so all in favor of the motion as amended, please signify by raising your hand. Okay, so all 6 of us voted in favor of the Borrego Solar project. Next on our agenda, the applicant is Raymond DiNardo, site plan review application to construct an attached accessory apartment located at 9 Hitching Post Lane, BSS Design. And we do have a motion here. Would somebody read that motion?
If you're willing to chance my reading it again, I'll do it.
Nothing's been changed on this, Charlotte.
No, this is the one we had.
Yes.
Okay, here's the motion. That the planning board votes to approve the application of Raymond DiNardo for the construction of a 1-bedroom accessory dwelling unit attached to the principal dwelling via a proposed constructed 1-car garage and office space located at 9 Hitching Post Lane. Under Article 39, site plan review of the zoning bylaw for a plan entitled Plot Plan. Proposed addition prepared for Raymond DiNardo, 9 Hitching Post Lane, East Falmouth, Massachusetts. Prepared by BSS Design Engineering and Surveying, dated July 12, 2019, scale of 1 inch to 20 feet, along with landscape and driveway plans and floor plans for the primary residence and accessory dwelling unit, as well as architectural renderings with the following findings. The applicant, Raymond DiNardo, seeks to construct a 1-bedroom accessory dwelling unit attached to the primary residence via a garage and office space located at 9 Hitching Post Lane. The parcel is zoned Residence C and located in Great Pond Coastal Overlay and contains 10,207 square feet of land. The proposed accessory dwelling unit is approximately 503 square feet. The primary residence is with the proposed additional construction is approximately 1,534 square feet and contains 2 bedrooms, and the applicant is proposing to build an additional bedroom to the primary residence, making it a 3-bedroom, along with 1 bedroom proposed for the accessory dwelling unit for a total of 4 bedrooms. The proposed percentage of total floor area of the accessory apartment is 26 and 27th of the total finished floor area of the principal structure. The applicant's attention is directed to the Board of Health referral dated June 1st, 2020, which indicates the property is on town sewer and is allowed up to 4 bedrooms total on the lot. The planning board's review does not include building code review, and the board defers to the building commissioner as to the issues related to the building code. The planning board considered the above referenced referrals and the applicant's response and plan revisions in its decision in this matter, and the board will condition its decision accordingly. The board finds that the information provided by the applicant conforms to all the requirements and findings pursuant to section 240-23.1 of the zoning bylaw. Here are the conditions. The plan shall be constructed as approved. Any changes shall be reviewed by the planning board to determine if a modification of this decision is necessary. Pursuant to 240-183B of the zoning bylaw, no permit for full or partial occupancy shall be issued until the planning board is satisfied that the conditions of this approval and predecessor approvals have been met. 2, either the principal dwelling or accessory part must be owner occupied for a period of 7 months in every calendar year, or owned by a nonprofit organization or government authority whose purpose is to provide affordable housing. An affidavit shall be submitted annually to the building commissioner, signed by the property owner, attesting that the principal dwelling or accessory apartment has been owner occupied for a period of 7 months and not otherwise rented as set forth above. 3, either the principal dwelling or accessory apartment may be rented, but not both. During the 5 months the owner occupant may be absent. Rental period shall be no less than 6 months, and weekly monthly rentals, summer rentals so-called, are expressly prohibited. Neither the principal dwelling nor accessory apartment shall be used as commercial accommodations at any time. 4, upon completion of construction, the applicant shall post the address for this residence per section 99-1 of fixing of legible numbers required, time limit for compliance. The address for the accessory apartment will be 9A Hitching Post Lane, The engineering division will assign this when the applicant comes in for sign off of the building permit. 5, the applicant shall obtain an approved driveway permit and post any required bond with the engineering division prior to the start of construction. The applicant shall complete work as approved by the engineering division in the driveway permit. 6th and finally, construction of this project shall follow the attached soil erosion and sediment control standard conditions document.
May I have a second for the motion, please?
Second.
Pam seconds. Is there further discussion on the motion? Okay, all in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Okay, 6 out of the 6 are in favor of it. Next,
Madam Chairman,
yes.
a request. As we go forward in doing these, every time we approve one, I would like to know how many we've approved. If we could keep a running count every time we do this and know that this is the 23rd or 40th or whatever we've done under the bylaw. I just would like to know that if we could keep track.
I don't know, Tom,
We absolutely can do that. In fact, we are about to put together our annual report where that information will be included, but we'll keep a running tally for you as well. That's
for every meeting. So, hey, this is our 23rd because I need to have my memory refreshed.
okay.
well, not only that, but I think it's nice if the public knows that it's being
Absolutely.
actively pursued.
Yeah,
Thank you for
it is
bringing.
proved to be very popular. What's your guess, Jim, of how many we've approved so far?
30, 25, 30.
Really? Tom, what do you think?
I think we've approved substantially more than we've turned down or sent away.
That's for sure. Okay.
What
well,
a cop-out.
Okay, so next, the applicant is Paul E. and Valerie B. Murray. Site plan review application to construct an attached accessory apartment located at 1 Wagon Trail Road, Holmes and McGrath. And we do have a motion. Would you like to read it again, Charlotte, or are you getting a little dry?
No, I'll give it a go.
Okay,
Okay, the motion that the planning board votes to approve the application of Paul E. and Valerie B. Murray for the construction of a 1-bedroom accessory dwelling unit within an attached garage located at 1 Wagon Trail Road under Article 39 Site Plan Review of the zoning bylaw for a plan entitled Plan of Proposed Additions Prepared for Paul and Valerie Murray for Lot 1, Number 1 Wagon Trail Road in East Falmouth, Mass, prepared by Holmes and McGrath Incorporated, civil engineers and land surveyors, dated April 22nd, 2019, scale 1 foot, 1 inch to 20 feet, along with architecturals, cross-section, and elevations titled Murray Residence, Mr. and Mrs. Pete Murray, 1 Wagon Trail Road, East Falmouth, prepared by Beatrice Bunker Architecture, dated June 15, 2020, along with floor plans, exterior dimensions, and photos of the residence with the following findings. The applicants, Paul E. and Valerie B., Murray, seek to construct a 1-bedroom accessory dwelling unit within an attached garage located at 1 Wagon Trail Road. The parcel is zoned agricultural D and located in the Great Pond Coastal Pond Overlay and contains 16,139 square feet of land. The proposed accessory dwelling unit within the attached garage is approximately 798 square feet. Currently, 655 square feet of the proposed accessory apartment exists, and the applicant proposes to construct a 143.375 square foot addition off the rear of the house to add a proposed I lost my place. Off the rear of the house to the proposed accessory dwelling unit. The primary residence is 2,737.5 square feet and currently contains 4 bedrooms, with one of the existing bedrooms to become the bedroom in the accessory dwelling unit. Therefore, the primary residence will become a 3-bedroom, and the overall bedroom count will stay the same for the property. The proposed percentage of total floor area of the accessory apartment is 29.15% of the total finished floor area of the principal structure. The applicant's attention is directed to the Board of Health referral dated December 5th, 2019, which indicates the existing septic for a maximum total of 4 bedrooms on the lot. Therefore, the septic system does not need to be upgraded. The planning board's review does not include building code review, and the board defers to the building commissioner as to issues related to the building code. The planning board considered the above referenced referrals and the applicant's response in this matter, and the board will condition its decision accordingly. The board finds that the information provided by the applicant conforms to all the requirements and findings pursuant to section 240-23.1 of the zoning bylaw. These conditions. First, the plan shall be constructed as approved. Any changes shall be reviewed by the planning board to determine if a modification of this decision is necessary. Pursuant to 240-183B of the zoning bylaw, no permit for full or partial occupancy shall be issued until the planning board is satisfied the conditions of this approval and predecessor approvals have been met. 2, either the principal dwelling or accessory apartment must be owner occupied for a period of 7 months in every calendar year, or owned by a nonprofit organization or government authority whose purpose is to provide affordable housing. An affidavit shall be submitted annually to the building commissioner, signed by the property owner, attesting that the principal dwelling or accessory apartment has been owner occupied for a period of 7 months and not otherwise rented as set forth above. 3, either the principal dwelling or accessory apartment may be rented, but not both. During the 5 months the owner occupant may be absent. Rental period should be no less than 6 months, and weekly, monthly rentals, summer rentals so-called, are expressly prohibited. Neither the principal dwelling nor accessory apartment shall be used as commercial accommodations at any time. Finally, 4th, upon completion of construction, the applicant shall post the address for this residence per section 99.1, affixing of legible numbers required, time limit for compliance. The engineering division will assign this address when the applicant comes in for sign off of the building permit.
May I have a second?
Second.
Okay, it's a tie between Jim raising his hand and Pam saying second. So
I'll happily give up my second.
okay, so Jim is seconding it this time.
I seconded it. I just want to say that this is an exemplary application. I found they really did a good job, and it should be handed to people as a guide to go forward.
Are there any other comments to this? Paul? Unmute, Paul. Nope. Yeah.
Is unmute sign.
Paul, you're still muted. Okay, now you're not.
It's all set.
I think the motion is fine. The issue I have is with the first paragraph and findings. I'm uncomfortable putting down 6 significant figures on a square foot addition. I mean, you can't measure it that close. So I don't know why we're going to do all those decimal points on an addition. Why don't we just say approximately 143 square feet? And then the primary residence is approximately 2738 square feet. I mean, it doesn't make sense to have 6 significant figures on a proposed addition like that.
Yeah. Tom is doing a thumbs up. Okay. And does everybody agree with that? I certainly do. Raise your hand if you agree with it. Okay. So we will change the wording. And Tom, before you submit it, please see that that's changed, but also add in that first line under findings, Paul Ian Valerie B. Murray. Their last name was left off.
Yeah.
I just made that correction, so we'll be all
Okay,
set. So there's
great.
no way I forget.
Great. Thank you, Michaela.
Not a problem. And I will revise the 6 figure as well.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you so much. Are there any other comments? Okay. Yes, Charlotte.
When we hear the number of applications that have been approved, I would propose that when we hit 30 applications approved, we could abbreviate the standard conditions when we read it and just say standard conditions. And if there are any extra ones, we can say those.
Does that sound reasonable? Because they're always the same.
They are.
Okay, so then when we read it, we will say standard conditions and only read anything that might deviate from those standard conditions. Is everybody okay with that? Yes, Pam?
Well, I think maybe what we do is announce a referral source so that if somebody wants to read those conditions, they can do that.
I see. Okay. So we have a reading version and a written version, essentially.
Right.
Okay. any other comments? We were doing more generalized comments then, but are there any comments on this decision? Okay, all in favor signify by raising your hand. Okay, everybody here is in favor of it, all 6. Thank you. Bless you.
If I may, Madam Chair.
Yes.
I'd like to announce we have approved 2.0000000 accessory housing permits this evening.
We all need a laugh.
Thank you, Tom.
Engineers, they like numbers, you know. I work with a couple.
Okay, public discussion. The applicant, SCS Nathan Ellis 011282, Falmouth West, LLC. SCS Nathan Ellis 011282, Falmouth East, LLC. Site plan review application to construct a large-scale ground-mounted solar carport facility. And everybody on the board knows, but it should be announced that this is at the fairgrounds so that people in our listening audience know what we're dealing with. Up for discussion. Yes, Tom.
If I may, could I just give a brief thumbprint, a thumbnail of where we're at presently?
Sure. Please do.
All righty. So you got a.
Oh, we've got Rennie Friedman joining us and Mr. Brandt.
Correct.
Joining us. Anybody, Mr. Yeah, now we can see you, Mr. Brandt. Okay.
So I'm going to share my screen and just put the records up here. So today I forwarded an email with a memorandum attached to it and some revisions to the plans. I've been trying to be busy since I got back from my travels. So what you received were about 8 sections of the revised plans. We have all 24 pages of them here if anyone would like to take a look at them. But essentially the things that we were sort of out on were the setbacks along the area of Courier Road where the church was at and the stormwater calculations. So these are the revised plans. I've tried to make them a little larger here on the screen. We have the cover sheet and the legend, and then we get down here to the 3rd page. This shows those areas where we've increased the setback. So here, and I'll blow it up one more time. We can see down here in the bottom right of the screen, the setback, building setback line of 100 feet. You can see that clearly, and that the rays are set back beyond that. Along that, that was the area that we were in, the setbacks were a little tighter on before. Along Courier Road, where this is the side yard setback, there's a 35-foot setback there. You'll see that up here towards the top of the screen on the left. That 35-foot setback includes the undisturbed buffer along the way there. So we have the 100-foot setback at the top of the street on Nathan Ellis. We'll scroll to that here in just a moment. So this is along Courier. We've got the 100-foot building setback at the beginning of the off of Nathan Ellis, the front yard setback, the 35 feet at the side yard setback, and 100 feet next to the church where we had the setback that approaches the agricultural or residentially zoned property. Also in the plans that I provided, the excerpts, this shows the, I believe this is the grading plan here. It also shows that same information with the 100-foot setback line. Let me zoom this in a couple of clicks. That same 100-foot setback line that we had talked about before. And note that there is RV signage that talks about the vertical clearance for the buildings. So on the last of those pages that I had forwarded to the board, you see a cross section of the canopy arrays. There are 2 different kinds of canopy arrays, 1 and 2, which are shown here essentially towards the on Ashumet Road and Nathan Ellis. Those, I'm going to scroll back over, don't get seasick, motion sickness. Those canopies are 19 feet, 4.5 inches tall, and they span about 60 feet crossways. There's parking underneath and travelways underneath of them. Similarly, for the arrays number 2, When we get down to this corner that we've been talking about, these are arrays 3 and 4 here. They are a bit different. They are 22 feet, 9.5 inches high, and they have an internal clearance of 14 feet, 8.25 inches. As I mentioned in my memo, this is consistent with what highway overpasses are. Some of them aren't even 14 feet tall. So these are 14 feet because this is the RV parking area. There's adequate room for someone to pull their RV underneath of that at 14.8 and not have too much of an issue. If you're camping with me, you're sleeping in the dirt in a tent, you're not gonna have to worry about your RV. But in this case, because it's the RV camping area, we have provided that. Stormwater, I spoke with engineering today. The stormwater calculations check out, although we are still using our 25-year standard. Most people on the planet are using a 100-year standard. Engineering confirms that they won't be any issues with stormwater on the site. And at that point, I'll turn it back over to the chair and happy to close this screen so folks can see what's going on in front of them here.
Okay, any comments? I see Jim has his hand raised.
Yes, I just wanted to point out that the town planner referred to these as buildings 3 times in this presentation, and yet we don't call them structures. I have some very serious concerns how these non-structures are getting to be 60 feet wide and 20 feet high, and we're not calling them structures. But that's for another time. We need to fix that. The other thing is, we didn't talk about it yet, but they're asking for a waiver on some landscaping. I think that they should do some decorative landscaping in areas where people are walking by and they're going to be making a lot of money on this, and they should make it look good. I'm in favor of the overall project. I think it's a great place to be. I have a technical problem the way we keep calling these things non-structures, because I think somebody's playing games with words. We can call them a building, but we can't call them a structure. Whatever. I'll let it go for this one, but I think we should do more landscaping and make them look pretty. And I think this is a great location. And I'd approve these things no matter what you call them in this location. I think it's a great thing. I'm just a little bit worried about the semantics we're playing to dance around some issues.
Other comments? Anybody have any other comments on this?
If I may,
Yes, Tom.
As Jim is discussing, this is a characterization made by the building commissioner under our site plan review bylaw. And as we've talked about a couple times, we're hoping to bring our revised site plan review bylaw to town meeting in November because it really is the poster child for where we've got some major issues in our zoning bylaws. I didn't want to throw the folks from Barnstable County Fairgrounds under the not a structure, not a building bus.
I like him here.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this is a very appropriate place for them.
Whatever you call it.
And Jim, when you say more landscaping, where do you want to see?
There's a waiver. If you look in the notes, I had a hard time reading everything. I tried to read everything, but there is a note about, I think it's waiving some landscaping. And I just thought, this is a massive project. Everyone's going to see it. Maybe some landscaping where people walk by and make it look pretty just on the edges, either on the roads or the walking areas, just small little things to make it look better and take a little edge off these non-building, massive 20 feet high, 60 feet wide things that we don't call buildings and structures, but make at least the walkways for people look a little better. That's all.
Would either of you like to comment who are representing this project?
Yeah, I'll chime in real quick here. And Jeff, I might kind of ask you this. I'm not exactly certain of the waiver that you're referring to, but I can say, irregardless of that, we would have no problem adding some additional.
I think it was section waiver number 7. When I read the waivers. Can we go to the waiver section to be clear, so we all know what we're talking about? I thought there was a waiver to waive the landscaping. Maybe I read it wrong. Can you bring that up, Tom?
This is my memorandum that includes the referral from the engineering division we should discuss previously. So in the engineering division's comments, we defer to the planning board if a landscaping plan is required per article XXIV landscaping requirements.
Oh, I guess what I'm saying, we should have one then.
So I pointed out that because the area of disturbance isn't being, the limit of disturbance, it doesn't affect the existing vegetated buffer, the trees and things like that. And there are going to be vehicles on the site before there's vehicles on the site now. The difference is going to be there's going to be these arrays on the site. We didn't request a landscaping plan because they frankly weren't tearing down the landscaping that was there. There's a little bit of tree coverage that's moving for a couple of arrays, but essentially the site doesn't really have any changes to the landscape other than the gravel and things like that they talked about underneath those arrays.
So Jim, what you would be talking about is making it look a little prettier for people passing by. I think.
Edges.
Pardon?
Walkways, the edges, walkways, people coming in, just making it look a little. I mean, they're going to be making a ton of money on this thing, and we're letting them put a huge power plant in our town. And just to make, I don't think we should waive the landscaping requirement. We should have a little modest dressing it up, make it look a little better. Just in the walkway areas where people see it.
Are you willing to leave that up to their discretion, Jim? Rather than having a full-blown landscaping plan?
Like to see as an attempt, we always ask for a little, I don't want to hold them up, but there's got to be a way they can make it look better. I don't want to hold them up.
Right. Charlotte?
Also, not to hold them up at all. I think maybe what Jim is thinking is more a matter of hardscape than landscape, because the landscape is very natural looking. That's what keeps it looking like an old-fashioned fairground. It's the trees grown up along the perimeter of all of this property. You wouldn't want to. You mean as people are going in and out of the entrance with the cars and the walkway going to the
just some bushes.
Over to the fairground, just curbing or something?
Well, just around the edges. Yeah, not just. I'm not talking. I'm talking landscape. Just around the walkways, as you would if you were at a commercial application. You try to look a little better. They're not doing any. I just think we do some, and we should.
The walkways from where people park their cars leading towards the fairground. Is that
dress it up? That's all.
You're getting the picture, right? He wants to see it have a few plantings along the walkway so that it's not just a blank sidewalk, but something of interest for people.
Not blocking cars, not block, but there's got to be. I looked at some areas in the parking areas on the plan where there are little oases that are. They could just have landscaping as we normally would in any site plan. We'd see the landscaping going in these areas, and here we're just saying, do whatever you want. I just think,
Jim, except that this is a naturalistic looking area. They're not disturbing the natural landscaping. And so I think it would be
it's a dirt
an inappropriate juxtaposition if you were suddenly landscaping along the sidewalk.
I've been out there a lot. It's just a dirt field. You're right.
I know it is.
A dirt field, and that's I'm okay with it either way. I was suggesting it would look better if we could.
Okay, Tom.
Yeah, I was going to say certainly, given the nature of the property that is the fairgrounds, I think some indigenous plantings, whether those be bayberries or things like that, something that's going to grow in the area that doesn't have to be nurtured. I think it's exactly what you want.
Resistant, green.
Yeah. Indigenous plants on the site. Let's not bring in anything exotic, but plant what should be out there.
Yeah, but stay away from that horrible Rosa rugosa that's
invasive.
Reaches out to snag you. Yeah, it's invasive. So, okay. So we've had a discussion then as to just putting a few plantings along a walkway to make it look part of the natural landscape. And it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion on this decision? Okay. Show of hands, please. All in favor? Charlotte? All in favor? Okay, 6 out of 6.
All right.
Thank you.
So we will prepare that decision based on your request for a positive motion.
Oh, that's right. We didn't quite do a motion, did we, on that, Tom? I'm sorry. I jumped ahead of it.
That's fine. So and in that time span to our next meeting, we'll be able to put some language in there about some of the landscaping along the walkways.
Okay. So at our next meeting, but we're meeting on the 18th. Are you talking about the meeting?
25th, yes.
On the 25th. Okay. So we will have a decision for you on the 25th, based upon the discussion we had today. Thank you both.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
You too.
Thank you.
Okay, planning board discussion, future agendas for pending applications. And John has requested, and I wholeheartedly agree, he has spent a tremendous amount of time working with a lot of people to pull together the multifamily housing concept and a potential bylaw. And he would like to see a small committee, and we will put that something similar to the LCP that worked so well, which Jim and I are very familiar with, as is Bob, who has not been able to join us. So he'd like to see a small committee put together, and that would be probably under planning board discussion, and we could probably do that on the 18th, I think. Yeah, Tom is doing a thumbs up on that. I had thought tonight was Union Studios, so I messed up on that and thought it could be very handily added to this agenda, but no. So John, we will have that part of the discussion on the 18th, and hopefully we will be able to put a small subcommittee together to work with John to, I hate to say hasten this along, but yes, it would be to hasten it along, get it into some form that can be brought very readily to the planning board for approval to be put on the warrant. And I don't know that we can do it for the November warrant. I doubt it, but if we could, it'd be sweet. Is that okay with you, John? Did I fairly state everything?
Yes, you did. But I would, if we have a small committee, it would be, in my opinion, it would be to finalize a lot of ideas and then present it to the board and let the board have at it and then put together something for town meeting.
Which would most likely be spring, yes.
But yeah, but everybody on the board, everybody should participate in this at some point.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, John. And Jim, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I just think we might need a little bit of design help in presentation, because I would like to see an example of what 20 units per acre looks like, so that we're talking instead of abstract terms. That's what I was always trying to do with the Davis Straits thing. Say, here's what it's going to look like. So if we could have, it could be, it doesn't have to be the Davis Straits, but just when we're doing this on a 1 or a 2 acre site, what it would look like so people understand. And I don't have, I mean, I have the ability to think those things, I can't draw.
Okay, Pam, you had your hand up.
What I was going to say is that, John has done a yeoman's job in putting his presentations together. He presented at the Affordable Housing Committee. And the reality is, what this has done is it limits how much the Affordable Housing Committee can do, because we can come up with every wonderful idea, but without a zone to put it in, we can't go anywhere. So this is just incredibly important if in fact we're interested in not just the concept of multifamily housing, but a place as well to put our affordable housing. So I can't thank John enough, because I know his heart and soul is in this, as is mine, and I just want to see it move ahead.
Paul?
Yeah, my sense is the board is generally in favor of doing this very quickly. And I think it behooves us to establish that small committee now. So when John has information ready, we can just jump on and start moving on it. So maybe what we should consider right now is establishing this subcommittee, if you want to call it that, on multifamily housing.
But I just ask people to consider who they'd like to do, who'd like to be on this, and take it up in a week when we actually have it on the agenda to establish that committee.
Yeah, I feel more comfortable actually having it on the agenda.
because that's the whole nature of our third meeting, or for those long-term sort of issues. So I think this lines up very well. John can sort of twist arms about whom he thinks are his potential players for this thing, mindful of the commitments that other folks have as well. But I think we'll have it on the agenda in a week, and we'll create that subcommittee at that point.
Okay, the other thing I'd like you to think about, I know John had in mind a 3-person subcommittee of the planning board, but we all know that there are other people who are passionate in Falmouth. I don't want to suggest that we do any more than potentially 5. We certainly cannot do more than 3 planning board members because that is out of shape. But just because that might come up, I'm throwing it out right now. I don't think I'm in favor of it, but I'm throwing that idea out. Yes, Jim.
Well, we could obviously have other people come and present to the committee that aren't voting members. So we could include lots of other people. It's not exclusive to the 3 voting members. I think we should, when they have hearings, they should reach out and get people.
Okay. We did that with the LCP.
That's what we did. We talked.
John was thinking about modeling this on the local comprehensive plan.
We should model under that, and if we should invite other people to come to the meeting, but only have 3 people as a subcommittee of planners working on it.
Okay, so keep all this in mind for next week when we discuss it, and hopefully determine who wants to serve on this. Does that sound good to you, John?
It does.
Okay, thank you. Are there any announcements? Pam? I mean, Charlotte?
Yeah, before we move on from there, I have first a question, and then I have something I'd like to add to the discussion for next time. One, at the last time we met, we were planning to have a letter about the 40B subdivision on North Falmouth Highway that was going to go to the ZBA. Did that happen?
Yes, it did.
Okay, I didn't see the letter. Did it go around?
No, it did not go around. Michaela put it together and I reviewed it to make sure that all of the points were fairly considered that we brought up.
I'm sure it was well done and so forth. I just really like to see a copy to keep sort of in a 40B file to see, yep, this is the kind of thing we do. So if we could get copies of that, that would be good. The other thing I'd like to see.
Okay, Tom did a thumbs up on that one, okay?
Yep, I saw him do that.
Okay.
I want to talk for a minute about the 53G business. It came up earlier in this meeting. The situation has changed from when we discussed it and turned it down. First of all, there's the pandemic and all the things related and unrelated that have happened at staffing in the departments that are involved. And I think we should take that into consideration. And the fact that other towns have adopted this and we have not, and other departments in our own town and we have not, we're out of step. And we might want to reconsider that. And I would like that to be, that reconsideration, if it's possible, to be added to next week's agenda.
Tom?
We've had a number of discussions in-house about that with engineering and with Peter McConerty. And I suggested to Peter, after he sort of gets his in as good a groove as he could, that he might come back to the planning board and talk a bit about that, about the how that works. How that works.
Excuse me.
Their operation. And I think that that's a great conversation to have sometime in the fall, after Peter's sort of aware of the fact that we want to talk about this again. The other issue is that we've got some changes that are going to come back to us from the Cape Cod Estates subdivision, which may help the board sort of consider some of the discussions we had about changes in our subdivision regulations as well. And since it's been so long since we advertised changes to our subdivision regulations, we'd likely go back, take a look at what those are, and basically re-advertise the whole kit and caboodle, just so we don't have something that comes out of the blue from 5 or 7 months ago. So I would recommend that we look at those subdivision regulations we changed. Some people had some questions about tweaking the inspection schedule. And I think that the episode that has occurred at Cape Estates is a perfect example of why our inspection protocol needs to be a little different. So I'm not fighting you at all. As you know, I'm a proponent of 53G, but I think we've lived this long without it, and let's get our pegs together. Let's put the whole story together. Let's advertise it and have that discussion in the fall.
Okay, in the same vein of things that have been cooking for a long time, but we're apt to forget all the detail that goes with it. The issue about ground-mounted solar as a structure is going to be folded into, is that the site plan review?
That's correct.
We should go over that so that when it all comes forward, we're really been grounded again in what's involved.
But maybe we need to look at the definition of structure in our bylaws, and that may need to be changed. I don't know because I haven't looked. I'm just grasping it out of the air. Tom?
So I would suggest on our agenda for next week, we have multifamily bylaw committee, site plan review changes. Some of the things that Michaela and I have been looking at to kind of introduce to the board, as well as update from, so it's three agenda items for our 19th meeting. We tried to keep those to an hour, I think we talked about. So let's pick them off that way. And we're also likely going to have a very robust conversation about the warrant for November. I emailed late this afternoon the schedule for a town meeting. The selectmen voted last night to close the warrant on August 28th, which is earlier than it typically would be. And the two things that or the one thing we absolutely positively want to have on the warrant for November, I think that should be on the warrant, and we want to talk about this in full next week. I talked to Bob Mitchell today when I got this schedule and said, Bob, are we ready to hit the print key on recodification? He tells me he spent a week reading the entire recodified zoning bylaw from cover to cover to look and see the things he might have missed before. He's made most recent amendments and will be giving us a PDF of the track changes tomorrow for distribution, followed later on in the week by a Word version of it, both Word and PDF of changes and track changes, because we wanted to get out in folks' hands. I think it's critical to move on with other things to have the recodification on the November town meeting, because we've been talking about it forever and it needs to be done.
So, Tom, this is not going to be a Union Studio meeting then next week. We had talked about making that the third meeting that was on the special projects. Tom? We lost Tom.
Yep, he's frozen.
He was freezing up talking. I was losing.
I know he was, but he's really frozen now.
Yeah, I just knocked the cable off the laptop. That's why I went
That'll
away
do
from
it.
So I heard somebody say something about not Union Studio, but yes.
Yeah, I thought Union Studio was for next week. It was the supposed third meeting of the month.
19th. So next week we've got multifamily bylaw, site plan, Union Studio, warrant articles.
So a whole bunch of things coming into that supposed third meeting, right?
Well, and that's why we're not doing any decisions next week. We're just sticking to the big picture and making sure we're able to focus on moving those things that are in the big picture.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions or comments? Yes, Paul.
I read the memo from Mr. Suso about the number of articles for the next town meeting. And he seems to want to cut those down quite a bit. The last time they only dealt with some budgetary items because of the fiscal year. Is there any guidance on what they want to eliminate or how they're trying to streamline this? Because I had written to the moderator last time, suggested that we just go through the warrants because many of those would have been approved without having any discussion. but I don't know what's going on now. But do you have any insight as to what the criteria is for reducing the number of articles?
To paraphrase Mr. Susso's correspondence, I think they would like boards and committees to be merciful in the things they are submitting to town meeting.
Okay. All right. Yes, John. Take yourself off mute, John. Okay.
Well, for next week's meeting, I would like to see the multifamily bylaw first, Union Studio second, and site plan review third if we have time for it. We've limited to an hour and a half. So, but I can't imagine Union Studio being done in 15 or 20 minutes.
Right.
And we have waited a year for this. So that would be my preference. Multifamily, which should not take very long, Union Studio, and then site plan review for whatever time we have available. That's my preference.
Thank you, John. I do concur with your preference.
Agreed.
I agree.
Okay. So Tom's got it down too. That's what the agenda is going to look like. Well, we've done that. Now, are there any announcements that anybody wishes to make? Okay. I do not have any general correspondence. I do not know if there was any that came in that I am unaware of.
Only that late breaking announcement from the manager's office about the town meeting schedule. As you know, I've been away and haven't been really curating our correspondence.
Okay. And then we've talked about future agenda items, sort of, unless, yes, Paul?
I'm just curious whether the people in Plymouth were practicing social distancing today when
the Mayflower. The Mayflower, huh?
Yeah, I've been in my house because the governor said if I've been out of the community, I should be staying here by the plant. So I did not go. I did go outside, took the trash out today, but I stayed away from everybody while I did it.
Okay, so we've discussed the future agenda items already. Does anybody want to see anything in addition on future agenda items? I think we've gone over that pretty well. Ha! Then the next meeting is, yes, Jim?
Well, I just wanted to compliment you, Pat, and Tom. We really got our act together on running these meetings since the first.
It's where, well, it helps that I'm not breaking up. So, you know, it was either the light like this or sitting on my bed. Or
we're all learning. We're learning how to raise it. You know, it's working good.
Yeah, it's working.
Thank you, everybody.
It's a learning procedure. So the next meeting is August 18th, same time, same place. And I will now adjourn this meeting.
Wonderful.
Unless anybody has any objection. Okay. Bye,
Thank you.
everybody.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.